Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Ghana Ghanatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigrara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanma Niramajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swatana Triptan Hare Bhakta Shanga Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swatana Triptan Kridaiva Tripte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shiradikama Davayara Para Madhura Lila Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Madhura Lila Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Ne Kunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Bhir Juktir Apekshaniya Nikunja Yuna Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Tatratidakshat Ativalabhasya Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Bande Guru Sakchadharitena Shamastashrashi Uktastatha Bhavyataiva Sadhuvi Shashi Uktastatha Kintu Prabhoja Priya Eva Tasya Bande Gura Shri Charanara Vrindam Priya Eva Tasya Bande Gura Shri Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasadam Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Dhyayam Stuvam Stasya Yasastrin Sandhyam Bande Gura Shri Charanara Vrindam Bande Gura Shri Charanara Dhyayam Stuvam Stasya Yasastrin Sandhyam Bande Gura Shri Charanara Vrindam Bande Gura Shri Charanara Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Shatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Shri Advaita Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Nama, Krishna Jadavaye Nama, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Nama, Gopal Govindaram Shrimadhusudam, Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Shri Radha, Nila Madhav Radha, Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Premanandi Haribo. Jayam Vishnupada Param Saprabhajakachadio, Sutara Sarasishimad, Iskon Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakachadio. Vaishnava Siramani Gaura Priya Jana Krishna Prema Bhakti Datta Parita Pavana His Divine Grace Abhay Charavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patitu Dhari Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Ji Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sadghosh Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Nanta Guru Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Prem Si Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vindi Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Pramanam Sankirtaneka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahavrana Avatar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Jugodharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihad Midanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopina Radha Kunsyam Kund Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabhim Vrindavan Matrudam Ki Jai Delo Shiv Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai Shri Mayapurna Vadip Ek Chakradham Ki Jai Jai Parama Karuna Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottama Kitra Jagannath Puridham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smasvadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vignam Vinashana Krishna Hare Bhagavan Ki Jai Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Bolo Srimati Radharani Ki Jai Shamavita Bhakta Vindi Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Pramanande. All glory to the assembly bodies, all glory to the assembly bodies, all glory to the assembly bodies, all glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Narasimhamadi Sharanam Prapade Nakashipo Dhanavina Desabadita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha
केशवद्रिता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare
केशवद्रिता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
Jaya
प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपा जय जय प्रभुपा प्रभुपा जय जय प्रभुपा जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंह स्वामी भगवान की जय। भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bhai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradeve Satta Sattabataye Namo Namaha. Vrindai tulasi nibai priyaya ke sava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi Sattabataye Namo Namaha. Vrindai tulasi nibai priyaya ke sava satya Krishna bhakti prade devi Sattabataye Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulsimarani Vrinda Devi ki
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Slogan. Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Nama Nama.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Nama Nama.
Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Iya Bilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Prama Eya Bilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Iya Bilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Prama Eya Bilasi.
Je tumhara sharanalo Karavancha purna ho
Je tumhara sharanala Taravancha puna.
Krupa kori koro tare Vrindavanavasi
Tumi kripa kare kara tare Vrindavanavasi.
Moraye iya bilas Vilas kunje diyo vas
Moraye ya vila Vilas kunde diyava.
Nayana haribo sada Yugala ruparasi
Aminayane niva sada Jugala ruparasi.
Ini vedana dara Sakiranuga karoro
Eni vedana dhara Sakirayano gatagara.
Sevadhikara diye Kuro nijadasi
Sevayade karadiye karani jadasi.
Dina Krishna dase koi eiya namora ho
Krishna Krishna das ko eye namora.
Sri Radha Govinda preme sada ye nabasi
Shri Radha Govinda preme sada ye navasi.
Sri Radha Govinda preme sada ye nabasi
Shri Radha Govinda
च पाप्नानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पाप्नानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पाप्नानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrindavani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jai Gauri Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Gauri Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gauri Hari Bol. Well done. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prare Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prare Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah. Vrindaye Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prare Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you, his wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower who can redeem the of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very full and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always swim in love, Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mate Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, our Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, people who are independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities in the strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the fearless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jevancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu vyaivacha paritanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Jai Ananta Kuti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanamajanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Patiparam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitani Amitashmarane Nakala Ita Drishitava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam idrishamya janinanuraga Trinadapi sunichena Tarorapi saishnuna Amanina manadena Kirtaniya sadahari Nadhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitamba jagarisha kamayi Mama janmanishari Bhavata bhakti rahaitu tvayi Ainandatanu jakinkaram Paritamam brusame bhavambudo Kripaya tapapada pankaja Stita tuli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galora shrudharaya Padanam gadugadarudhaya gira Pulakaya nichitam vapukada Tavanam agrahane bhavisyati Jugaitam nimishena Chakrusha pravrusaitam Sunya itam jagata sarvam Govinda virahena me Asli shava padaratam pinastumam Adarshana marmahatam karotuva Jata tathava vidadhatulam pato Mat pranatastu saivana para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam Ki Jai. Gaura Pramanandi Hari Hari Bol. Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tishe Nama. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinam. That was excellent. Very good singing. Good start. At least where makes us singer. Extra good singer. You're on the list now. You're down on the list. Okay. Where are we now? Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which all is anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your casual devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please bring me out from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? When will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikyastakam Ki Jai. So, Mangala Charan or Guru Vandana. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchurun Vinitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Jotapara-kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatavintam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Srunavadi Pachatyari Shatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varsabhana Videvi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namah Madhurjojala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapo Siddhanta Dvantarine Namagore Kishoraya Sakchavera Gyamurtaye Vipralambhara Sambodhe Parambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumiswam Nidesha Sajana Priya Vaishnavo Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannataya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnayo Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatattamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataro Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanto Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Mandamatir Gatir Masarvasya Parambojo Radha Madana Mohanam Divyavindaranya Kalpadvimadha Shmara Nagara Shingasanastu Shmaradha Shila Govinda Devo Kristali Vishaiva Manushmarami Shmara Sara Sarambi Bamshvato Tatastitam Karsham Venu Swanar Gopi Gopinata Shri Estuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrisabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchit Ananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarva Karana Karana Chintamani Prakarasana Sukalpa Viksha Laksha Vitesha Shuravi Ravi Palayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevimanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Venum Vadantam Arvindare Alatakyam Varam Bhatasamasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Vishesha Sobam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Alula Chandra Kala Sarvanamalya Bamsi Radnangadam Pranaya Kiri Kala Vilasam Syamam Tribangala Litam Niyata Prakasham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajami Antivanti Pashanti Panti Kalayanti Chiranjaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujala Vigrasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajami Antachutamana Mananta Rupa Madhyam Purana Purusham Navajovanam Chambedi Slavabam Adubam Arma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajami Pantastu Koti Salavasara Sampagami Vayuratapi Manasumuni Pungavana Sopyasti Yatra Padasimya Vichinchatate Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajami Eko Apesura Jaditum Jagannatha Putim Yashakti Rasi Jagannatha Chajadantam Adantarashta Paramanu Chayantarashtam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Jadbhava Bhavita Dio Manijasateva Samprapya Rupa Mahimasana Yanabhusha Shukte Yame Vanigama Prasidestu Vanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Ananda Chinmaya Savarti Bhavita Bhista Virya Evanisha Rupa Taya Kalabi Kolokai Vanisa Vachaklam Nabuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Primanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Shadeva Videsh Vilagayanti Jamshama Sundarma Chinta Guna Swarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Ramadi Murti Shukalani Amena Tishtam Nana Bhatar Akarana Bhuvanishikintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramapumanyu Govinda Madi Purusham Yacha Prabha Pravajatu Jagananda Koti Kotya Sashishvasdari Vibhuti Vin Tad Brahmanis Kalamanantam Ashesha Bhutam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Maya Yasha Jagananda Satani Sute Tveguna Tabhisha Veda Vitayamana Sattva Valambi Parasatam Visuddha Sattam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajami Ananda Chimayara Samatamaya Masu Taprinam Paratamupetyam Lila Yite Nabhuvani Jajajastam Govinda Madi Purusham Golokanam Nidhi Chodam Nitali Tatasya Devi Mahesha Haridama Shute 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 Te Prabhavani Chayavi Tashayena Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Shiti Shiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayena Yasha Bhuvanani Vibhakti Durgam Ichan Rupam Yasha Shastate Desa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Kiram Yatata Vikara Vishesha Yoga Sanjayati Tata Pratakastu Yetu Tasambutam Apitata Samopeti Karya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Deeparsha Eva Isha Dansaratamu Pecha Deepa Yite Vivita Yita Samana Dharmata Ida Eva Isha Visnutaya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Yakara Nana Vajre Vajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jaganan Saroma Kupa Adara Shaktima Valambya Param Samurti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Jasvikani Sachita Kala Atavalambya Shivanti Roma Villa Jagananda Nata Vishnu Mana Iya Shakala Visheshu Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Basma Yatasma Sakalinu Sindhija Tejo Sriyam Kiya Prasta Vishesha Tatapti Datra Brahmaya Eja Jigana Jatanta Vidana Karta Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajam Japara Pala Vayugma Vidanaya Kumba Vendi Pranama Samaya Jagata Diraja Vyavyantu Malasham Jatatraya Yasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamabhajami Agni Jakakana Bhuma Ruchidaja Kila Yata Atma Masita Jagatayani Yasman Bhavanti Vivanti Vishantiyam Cha Govinda Mari Purusham Tamam Yaksha Shurisha Savita Sakalagra Raja Samasta Sura Murti Mashisha Teja Vijaya Jagya Brahmati Samrita Kala Chakra Govinda Mari Purusham Tamam Dharma Tapa Pranichaya Sutaya Samsi Brahmadi Shakura Dava Dajasha Jiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Mari Purusham Tamam Jatinda Gopama Tavindra Ausakarma Bandhan Rupam Palabhajana Atanoti Karmani Nidranti Kanchu Bhakti Bhajan Govinda Mari Purusham Tamam Yakama Kura Saja Samanibhiti Vasala Gora Gora Viseva Bhavi Jachinta Tasha Sajim Tamama Pureti Govinda Mari Purusham Tamabhajami Sri Kanta Kanta Parama Purushakula Bhumi Chintamani Mayim Pramamitam Kata Gana Mayim Ganana Mativam Sipriya Sakichirananta Jyoti Paramajita Dharma Mapi Jajati Kirvi Swasti Sabisa Suman Nime Kyoja Vrajati Jaya Jatrasamai Pajasvita Jipam Iya Guluka Itinyacha Vidanta Santa Kiri Varakcharakati Pai. The Spirit Master receiving benediction from the ocean message, just a cloud closed loose in the 45 extinguishes. So the Spirit Master delivered the material of the whereby his benediction to his existence. How from my respectful blessing to the Lord of the Spirit Master was in the ocean. The Spirit's qualities, chanting, running, dancing, singing, playing musical instruments. The Spirit Master was gladdened by the Sankirtan and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because relishing the mellows of pure devotion with his mind. Sometimes he stands and he feels quivering in his body and just from his eyes like waves. How from my respectful blessing to the Lord of the Spirit Master. The Spirit Master always engaged in temple worship with Shirada and Krishna. He also engaged his disciples in such worship. They addressed the in beautiful club and ornament, clean the temple and perform other similar worship with the Lord. How from my respectful blessing to the Lord of the Spirit Master. The Spirit Master always offering Krishna for kind delicious food and knowledge which is bleak, true, drunk and such. When the Spirit Master sees the body satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prashad, is satisfied. How from my respectful blessings unto the Lord of the Spirit Master. The Spirit Master always eager and chant unlimited concept of Radhika and Madhava, and they quality names and from the Spiritual Master aspect to receive every moment. How from my respectful blessings to the Lord of the Spiritual Master. The Spiritual Master is ready because they expect assisting the gopis with different times, with different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna according to within the groves of Vrindavan. How from my most humble blessings to the Lord of the Spiritual Master. The Spiritual Master is to go in as much as supreme Lord because the most confident servitor of the Lord. This acknowledging all of his scriptures is followed by the authority. Therefore, how from my respectful blessings to the Lord of the Spiritual Master, who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna by the mercy of the Spiritual Master. When it's still beneficial Krishna, without the grace of the Spiritual Master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always praise the Spiritual Master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful blessings to the Lord to my Spiritual Master.
His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, verse number 16. Swad ita yarhitam vidvan, natma maya yagam hare.
Radma Maya Yanam Hare
Abat apartam nirmulam,
Abachapartam Nirmulam
Vishwamulam nayad bahi.
Visamulam Nayad
Sadhu, as good as it should be.
as good as should be.
Etat, all these explanations.
All these explanations.
Vyarhitam, thus spoken. Vidvan, O learned one. Na, not. Atma, the self. Maya, energy. Ayanam, movement. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Abati, appears. Apartam, without meaning. Nirmulam, without basis. Vishwamulam, the origin is the supreme. Na, not. Yat, which. Bahi, outside. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for His pastimes. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy, Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of his material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, therefore it says, Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smarati Nitya Saha Tasyaham Srilapa Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. That's a very important verse. We've heard about it before. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Prita, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So this is a solution to all problems of life. If we simply engage in devotional service, beginning with chanting the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everything else, entrapment in the material world, illusion or Maya, and engagement in sensual activities and suffering, miseries, all that is unnecessary. The only reason we experience those things is because we have forgotten Krishna. We have accepted to be ignorant. And because of that, we're trying to emulate the Lord through trying to control some part of his material energy. Therefore, Ishivaishamidam sarvam jatkinja jagatyam jagatena taktena bunjitaha magridaha kashasit danam kurvan evaha karmani jijiva chektatam samaha evam tvayi nangatetustina karma likate nare. So the Lord is the owner and controller of everything, and he has set aside for everyone their minimum needs. Accepting the minimum and not trying to get more, the living entity can live free from karma and thus, Kurvaneha Karmani Jijivatek Satam Samaha. They can become free from the modes of material nature and their influence, and they can become liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So, there's so much evidence of how the living entity can free himself or herself from the throes of material nature, but people are not interested in hearing about it. They think that suffering is a part of life, and actually suffering is extraneous to life. It has nothing to do with the soul, but yet people become entrapped because of their enviousness of Krishna. That's what causes our fall down. Why should Krishna be the center of everyone's preoccupation? Let me be the center. So as soon as someone thinks like that or becomes jealous of Krishna, they fall down from the spiritual world, and they think, well, I'll get revenge now. I'll become Krishna myself by controlling material nature in some way or other and people. So a living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation. There's no need for Krishna to create the material world. It's created only for the living entities to give them a chance to see if they can become a little Krishna. But actually, there's a second purpose, and that is to give them a chance to come back to Godhead. So we have to decide, do we want to do something impossible, like trying to imitate or become equal to Krishna? Or should we free ourselves from this world of illusion and unnecessary suffering by understanding what our real position is, what our real purpose in life should be, what our real goal of life should be, and go back to Godhead, where we came from. So in the Vedic literature, there's an explanation of what's called the 3 strikes against the living entity. What are these 3 strikes? It's a very interesting point. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, says, "My dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain desires." So now, what are the three strikes against the living entity? Strike number one, Krishna is unlimited. Strike number two, Maya is insurmountable. Strike number three, the jiva is full of material desires. So, these three things we should become cognizant of these three things. It's impossible to equal Krishna or become greater than Krishna because he's unlimited, but we are limited. Two, it's impossible to overcome Maya. Daivahi Esa Gunamayi. Why is it impossible? Because it's Krishna's spiritual energy. We cannot overcome it. It's more powerful than we are. And number three, we have so many material desires that keep us in the material world. And we cannot get free of them unless we completely surrender to Krishna. Okay, so that's very interesting to know that we have three strikes against this. In English, we say 3 strikes and you're out. And that's a fact. We're out, meaning we're out of the spiritual world and we're suffering in the material world. Then also in the Prema Vivarta by Jagadananda Pandit, it says, "Krishna Bahir Mukha Hana Bhoga Vanchakare Nikata Sta Maya Tare Japatiya Dare." And this is in Bengali, but it's very, very significant statement by Jagadananda Pandit, who was a personal associate of Lord Chaitanya. It says, as soon as one becomes inimical to Krishna, in other words, as soon as one becomes envious or hateful toward Krishna, and desires sense gratification, he is immediately struck down by the illusory energy of the Lord. And notice the word immediately. As soon as that type of thought enters into mind, one is struck down. So if you read the Ramcharitmanas, and there is a history about Garuda. Now Garuda is a gigantic bird, the biggest bird in the universe. And he's the carrier of Lord Vishnu. So you have to be really big to carry Lord Vishnu. And he can go very, very fast anywhere in the universe. He can go into other universes also if he wants to. So big birds, they like to eat snakes. So in the battle with Ravana, at one point, Ram and his brother both became tied up by the snake weapon thrown by Ravana's son. And it looked like they were in real trouble. So Garuda was called to come to free the Lord and his brother. And when Garuda came and he saw both of them tied up by the snakes, the snake weapon, for 1 second he thought, maybe the Lord is not actually all-powerful. He had that thought for a second. Because of thinking like that, he was obliged to become purified by a crow. Now, crows are the most vile birds, and Garuda is the greatest of all the birds. But he had to submit himself to a crow to become purified. Now, how can a crow, who's the most vile bird in the universe, purify Garuda? Well, this crow was not just a crow. He was a devotee who had received a curse and a benediction. And the curse was that he should become a crow. And the benediction was that he would always recite the Ramayana purely. So he was a great, guru, but he committed a mistake. And because of that, he was cursed, but yet he was blessed also. So Garuda had to go sit in front of him, or sit, in a subordinate position to him, this crow, and hear the Ramayana spoken. And by hearing the Ramayana spoken by the crow who was purified, he became purified. Because of that 1 second thought that maybe the Lord is not the Supreme Personality, because he saw him all tied up. So we see how when it says that therefore the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of miseries. Now, as soon as one becomes inimical to Krishna and desires sense gratification, he is immediately struck down by the illusory energy of the Lord. So there's one example of how someone can be immediately struck down by the illusory energy of the Lord. And then it says, Krishna Buddhya se jiva anadi bahirmukha ateva mayatara dukkha. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. Well, therefore, all the miseries we're experiencing, miseries of this body, miseries caused by others, miseries caused by supernatural forces, that earthquakes and hurricanes and the whirlwinds and so forth, they're all unnecessary. As soon as we become purified in Krishna consciousness and practice Krishna consciousness in a serious way, all these things will go away. Either they go away personally, or they can go away for the whole Earth planet or the whole universe if everyone practices Krishna consciousness sincerely. So you would think, wait a minute, let's all do this because this will make our life easier. But no, they will find so many reasons, and the demons will give so many arguments why we should not, why people should not become Krishna conscious. Sometimes church people do it too. They say, don't chant Hare Krishna. You have to believe in Jesus. Don't chant it. This is a demoniac thing. So we see there are many, many forces against believing in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Krishna consciousness. But one thing that people cannot deny, and that is when the Sankirtan coming down the street and the devotees are nicely dressed and have tilak and shaved or nicely dressed, and they're chanting ecstatically, they can't argue with that because the devotees are happy. Now, if you look like you're suffering, like I saw this one picture of a Sankirtan party in New York City, and they were sitting down, and there was somebody's playing a harmonium, but it looked like they were really sad. Nobody was smiling, they were like that, So that is not, and you can't be artificially, all smiling and happy, but when you're chanting and you're actually feeling the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you will be happy. You'll be jumping up and down and full of joy. So there are other photos and also videos of devotees in ecstatic bliss chanting Hare Krishna. See? So no one can argue with that because people are forced to say, well, if they're happy, they have something, you know. I mean, we want to be happy too, but looks like they're happy. They don't have to drink any wine or whiskey or smoke marijuana. And they look like they're healthy and they look clean and they're dressed nicely. And, well, they must have something. They have something that's substantive, that has real substance to it, right? So you cannot argue with people who are happy. Not happy because they're crazy or because they're doing self-destructive things and they think they're happy, but they are healthy, happy, and wise. You can't argue with that. Healthy, happy, and wise. And happiness that is unbreakable. They're feeling it every day, all day long. This happiness of being free from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease by virtue of being always engaged in devotional service. So that is the greatest convincer to most people. If you are happy and you're peaceful and you have a nice family and your kids are growing up also happy and peaceful, they're not smoking marijuana and trying to commit suicide, then people will take notice and say, well, they have something real there, substantial, you know. Maybe I should find out what it is, you see. So everything we do, if we do it right, we will be happy. And if we don't do it right, even though we're chanting, we'll not be happy. So yesterday we discussed something very, very interesting in the lecture about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur around well, it was supposed to be 11 to 12, but most everybody came late, so they missed most of it. But it was a very important lecture because it was a example of a man who tried to play Lord Chaitanya. Now, what does that mean, play? If you say, "Oh, he tried to play me," look that up on the what does that mean? It's somewhat colloquial saying in English, but it has a very good meaning. If you play someone, what's it say? What? No. Good guess, but
To exploit as the feelings or weaknesses of another.
okay. Say that again. Say louder.
To exploit as the feelings or weaknesses of another.
As the what?
As the feelings or weaknesses of another.
Yeah. So you're trying to take advantage of another person.
Take selfish advantage of.
Yes. So this person tried to take advantage of Lord Chaitanya. He came up to him and said, "Look, my Lord, my daughter is very sick, and it looks like she's going to die. So you should save her. And if you do that, then people will be really interested in you because you saved my daughter from death. And your fame will increase. And more people will be amenable to following you." Now, someone would say, well, what's wrong with that? He's asking the Supreme Personality of Godhead to save his daughter, who's not an evil person, from death. Well, she died. And then the man who tried to play Lord Chaitanya got really upset. Said, "I don't believe in Lord Chaitanya. I was chanting his name, Gora, 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 all day long, all night long to save my daughter. And she died. So now I don't believe in him anymore." So then Lord Chaitanya was, in a way, challenged by someone, not directly, but in a very, let's say, soft way. How come you didn't save his daughter? Right? And then, someone came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I got something a little bit wrong. It was Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur who was challenged why this man's daughter was not saved by the Lord. And when the man actually came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and asked him to pray to Lord Chaitanya so the daughter would be freed, right, from death. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur refused to do it. Then the daughter died, and then a man came, a friend of the father came and said, well, how come you didn't save the daughter? And now Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went through about 20 pages of explanation of why he didn't do it. And it's very profound what he said. And he gave a lot of Shastric evidence to prove that why should he become the servant of that father who had only material desires. He didn't have any spiritual desire at all. And he was trying to exploit or get Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to be his servant to save his daughter. Now, someone might say, what's wrong with saving the daughter? What did the daughter do wrong? Well, the daughter suffered because the father was sinful. He committed an aparad. What is the aparad? It's trying to use the holy name to serve one's material desire. Right? So, therefore, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you can't play Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's a pure devotee, right? So when he realized what this man was trying to do, he just said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to become the servant of your sense gratification, right? If you want to surrender to the Lord and hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and purify yourself, then yes, it is possible maybe that your daughter will not die. But if you come here and you say, well, you know, if you do this, you'll become famous and I'll bring many people to you, blah, blah, blah. This is like, you know, a business proposition. It's not, has nothing to do with devotional service. So the daughter died because of the aparad of the father, because of the blasphemous misstep of the father. So we'll go over that another time, but you know, when you hear the explanations, like 20 pages of Vedic Shastra, and some of the most important verses in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavad Gita, you can see how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was not an ordinary guru. He's considered to be in some way or other a expansion of Jiva Goswami, who was the greatest scholar in the history, one of the greatest scholars in modern history, right? So here it says also, Achintakalo Ye Bhava, which means in the Mahabharata Bhisma Parva 5.22, Achintya kalu ye bhava natam starkena yojayat pakriti vya param yachcha tad achintyasya lakshanam. Anything transcendental to material nature is called inconceivable, whereas arguments are all mundane. Since mundane arguments cannot touch transcendental subject matters, one should not try to understand transcendental subject matters through mundane arguments. Well, that's what the father of the daughter was trying to do. He's giving mundane arguments. Oh, you'll become famous. I'll bring many people to you. Your influence will become much more enhanced, you know, if you serve my sense gratification. No, that doesn't go anywhere. Since mundane arguments cannot touch transcendental subject matters, one should not try to understand transcendental subject matters through mundane arguments. Okay, so this is also in the Skanda Purana, and it's in the Mahabharata, in the Bhisma Parva. So, achintya means inconceivable. So the subject matters of Krishna are, in a sense, inconceivable. How can he be very far away and very near at the same time? How can he have no legs but yet run faster than anyone? These seem impossible. But if you hear the explanations by the pure devotees and the acharyas, then you realize what the real meaning is to these statements. They sound mutually contradictory, but they're not. And why is that? Because Krishna has absolute powers. No one can equal him or be greater than him. Therefore, he can do all these things that seem impossible to us. So therefore, anything transcendental to material nature is called inconceivable. Now, most people try to understand things by argument and logic and empiricism and so forth. And they mislead not only themselves, but others. Like, for example, let's say you come up with a theory, and you're able to convince a whole bunch of people that your theory is correct. Then you start believing yourself that your theory is correct, because you were able to convince a whole bunch of idiots. See? So that does not make the theory correct just because some people believe it, or a lot of people believe it. Just like a lot of people believe that abortion is a good thing, right, in the United States. At least half of the country believes that, or a little bit more than half of the country. But actually, it's a very bad thing. So that doesn't make it right because so many people believe it's good. See? So, and then it says, Jnanam paramaguyam me, yad vijnana samanvitam, sarhasyam tad angam cha grahana gaditam maya. Knowledge about me, Krishna says, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential. And it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. Well, very confidential, that's a fact. This is also said in Bhagavad Gita. Raja Guyam, Raja Vidya Vaja Guyam, Pavitam Idam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmam, Susakam Kartam Avyayam. So that is the 9th chapter, 2nd verse. And it says, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. The most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. This is a huge verse. There's a lot of significance. And it's supporting what this other verse says from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31. It's a very, very mysterious thing, the secret of all secrets, that is devotional service. And this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, it's the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. Now, what should this convince us of, this one verse, 9th chapter, 2nd verse? What should we be convinced by this? That is, that all the junk things that people are learning and kids are learning in school, that's nonsense. This is what they should learn, Bhagavad Gita. Not just memorize the verses. No, you have to understand the verses. It's not simply memorization. Memorization is good, but it's not the best. The best is understanding the verses and how to explain them correctly in context. So, this knowledge is the king of education, Raja Vidya. That should convince us right there what we should be studying, what kids should be studying, what we should be studying, what we should spend our time on. Now, Prabhupada, although he was married and he had a business, he worked for someone first, and then he started his own pharmacy, and he worked for many years, from I think age 21 or 22 to 59. That's a long time, right? How many years is that? That's like 30, 40 years almost, right? And he had 5 kids, and he had to get them married. He only had one wife. And then he took sannyas. So, how did he become so highly educated in spiritual life? Well, because he met his guru. His father was already a devotee, but whatever he learned from his father was sort of, let's say, attacked by his 4 years in college, Scots College in Calcutta. And he says it also. It influenced him, that material education. But when he met his guru, then that clinched it for him, that he became completely dedicated to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. You see how this modern education, and he admitted himself, it affected him. Sometimes he would get into, slight arguments with his teachers because they were trying to make the Bible superior to the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And they would explain that in classes, right? And so you associate with people like that, it affects your faith in Krishna consciousness. Now imagine, what that effect has on young kids. I mean, Prabhupada was already an adult when he was going to school, right? So the effect on young kids is devastating, right? They might never revive from materialism. So in the purport to this 9.2, it says, this chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education. 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, King of Education. Because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Well, 8 other chapters. It says it's the essence of everything that you've heard in the first 8 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Sandilya, and Vaishvanara. And finally, there is Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge. Dearth means lack of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now, the Lord says that this 9th chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. Wow, that's a big statement, right? It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. So, what does the first verse of 9th chapter say? Idam tu te guyatamam pravakshyam yanastruyave jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajgadva muksya sisubat. Very nice verse. It says, Idam tu te guyatamam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. That's a big statement in the first verse, right? And it's a big statement about this 9th chapter, the whole 9th chapter. It's the quintessential chapter of all Vedic knowledge. Right? So earlier, in the 4th chapter, Krishna says to Arjuna, in the 4th chapter, 5th verse, he says, no, not the 5th chapter, not the 5th verse. It is the 9th verse, not 10th verse. Let's see, the 10th verse. trouble finding this. Okay, sixth. Okay, no, it's earlier. It's the it's the third verse. It says, "Sa evayam mayate dia yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam hyutad uttamam." This very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So he's giving two qualities that makes Arjuna qualified to understand this most secret of all secrets. Bhaktosi me saka cheti. He's bhakta and saka. Bhakta means he's devotee, and saka means he's friend. Now he's giving the third one, third quality. As it says, idam tu te guyatamam prabhakshyami anasuyave. He's anasuya. He's not envious. So you have to be a friend, you have to be devotee, and you have to be non-envious. Then you're qualified to hear and understand this knowledge. Okay? So now he says that this Bhagavad Gita is Raja Vidya, the king of all knowledge, and Raja Guyam, the secret of all secrets. That's how magnanimous and magnificent this one book is. We don't need to read anything else, just this one book. And that's what we heard yesterday, right? In the class, Prabhupada said, you just study Bhagavad Gita. You don't have to study anything else. Everything is there. Right? If you want to read Srimad Bhagavatam, you can, because it's the extension of the Bhagavad Gita. It gives even more details. But Bhagavad Gita itself is enough to liberate anyone from the cycle of birth and death. Okay. So, this appreciation of Bhagavad Gita is very important if we want to make spiritual advancement. Therefore, it says, yeah, atapite deva padambuja dvaya prasada lesana grihita eva hi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko pichiram vichinvan. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Whoa. So how do we get the favor, even a slight favor, of the mercy of Krishna's lotus feet? Well, that means you must surrender to bona fide Guru. You must follow the instructions of Guru and Shastra, or Guru and Krishna. Krishna is the original Guru, and anyone who claims to be a Guru must repeat exactly the same words as Krishna. He cannot change them. If he changes even one word, he's not qualified to be Guru anymore. Just like Bali Maharaj's Guru, Sukracharya, he changed a few words. Bali Maharaj immediately rejected him. That's how serious it is, speaking nonsense. If someone is a guru and they speak some nonsense, that should be rejected right away. Right? Okay. Of course, the guru apologizes. Maybe you can say, okay, that's strike one, right? 3 strikes, you're out. Be careful. So, yeah. Therefore, this verse, we have to be favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of Krishna's lotus feet. Then we can understand the greatness of his personality. So how do you do that? You surrender to Guru, you take up devotional service very seriously, and don't make any more decisions unless it's approved by the bona fide guru and gurus, Shiksha and Diksha gurus. We all have different ideas. Should I do this? Should I do that? Yeah, but we should get advice all the time. Because if we make a mistake, guess whose fault it is? It's not the guru's fault. It's your fault. Now, can the guru make a mistake? Well, if the guru has material desires, he'll make mistakes. But if it's just like sometimes people ask me a question, well, you know, my husband did this and I'm thinking of getting him a divorce. What do you think I should do? I said, well, I only give spiritual advice. I'm not a marriage counselor, and you should not ever get a divorce, but you should learn to tolerate. Matra sparsastu konteya sitosna sukadukataha agamapayano nityas tam statikshas svabharata. You have to tolerate things because everything is temporary. Eventually, the situation will change. People get older, they might get wiser, or people might get old and die, you know. But you have to follow your vows. You made a vow of marriage. Did someone put a gun to your head and say, you have to marry this man? No. You decided to marry this person, and you have to make the best of a bad bargain, right? Unless the person, of course, is violent and threatening to kill you, that's something else. But just because you have an argument or there's an insult or something, that's not grounds for having a divorce, right? But anyway, I don't give advice about marriage counseling or anything. I just give spiritual advice. So I have to be careful too, you know. I mean, everyone says, "Oh, how about this? How about that?" You know, no, I don't give that type of advice. You ask me something spiritual, I'll give you the advice, you know, and I'll give you the Vedic knowledge where that to prove that the advice is not wrong. Right. Okay, so here we have many different points that are made by this one simple purport. Also, in the Bhagavad Gita, one second. Yeah. What is it? Oh, it's 65. Yeah. Sarvapadi vinir muktam tat parat vena nirmalam. Hishi kesa hishikena sevanam bhaktir uttamam. Sevanam bhaktir uchyate. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations. Two, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. So today we learned the 3 strikes, and you're out for every devotee. Strike 1, you cannot equal Krishna in any way or be greater than him. We're always going to be subordinate. 2, it's impossible to overcome the material nature. In no way. We can do it on our own. And number 3 is that we can, without the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we cannot overcome, we cannot become free from the cycle of birth and death. Okay, so 3 strikes and you are out. Let me just make sure that's true. Where's that? Day 19. Okay. Yeah. The Krishna is unlimited, so we never can become equal or greater than him. Number 2, it's impossible to overcome material nature. And number 3 is the jiva is full of desires. So those are 3 strikes against us. It's full of, we have myriad number of material desires. So those things are against us. But yet, Sarvapadi Vinir Muktam, if we get rid of the upadhis, these false designations, then what happens? One is freed by surrendering to Krishna and engaging in his devotional service. Number one, we become free of material designations, and simply by being engaged in the service of the Lord, our senses become purified. So these upadhis, or false identifications, are a very serious problem for everyone. I know it's a problem for me, and to overcome false designations. I am this, I am that, this is my people, this is my race, this is my country, this is mine, I, me, and mine, blah, blah, blah. It's very difficult to overcome these things. But if we are regularly hearing and chanting, it's possible. And then we become also able to control our mind and senses and keep them engaged in devotional service. Okay, so, O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul had no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. So this is what we discussed today. Are there any questions? Yes.
So, Maharaj, you mentioned the kind of three qualities, the Bhakta, Sakha, and then Anasuya.
Yeah.
So is Anasuya independent of these two first qualities, or is it kind of because in order to be a friend and in order to be a disciple, devotee, don't you have to automatically lose the Asuya?
Well, the enviousness is due to our desire for sense gratification. So we become a competitor of Krishna when we're envious. So that means if we give up our desires for sense gratification and desire only to please Krishna, the enviousness goes away. Just like, would you become envious of your father and mother? Well, some people do, right? But if you're always respectful and always ready to serve them, then you're not envious. So this service component has a lot to do with whether one is envious or not. If you're envious, you won't give any service at all, right? And if you give a little bit of service, well, you're not completely over the enviousness, right? If you give complete service, that means you're not envious. Yeah. So it's related to how much you engage in devotional service. Yeah. Haribol. Okay, so we can have our Guru Puja. So I will discuss in more detail the little history of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and the man that was trying to play him, because it's extremely profound. There's 20 pages of Shastra that he gives. And the verses that he mentions are some of the greatest verses in the history of the world. So you see how deep his understanding was of Krishna consciousness. No wonder Prabhupada surrendered to him. And so many people. See, when you commit an offense against such a great devotee as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the reaction is very severe. Very, very severe.
Shri Guru, can I start?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bangamoy Savarana Mate
Bando mui sabadana
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Baba Toriya Jai
Chanara prasade bhai He bhavatoriya jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jai Hate
Krishna prapti hoya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chithate Koriya Kya Arana Koriya Mana Raja
Arana koriya mane asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Esutama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utamagati
Jai Prasad Pure Sarva Sha
Ye prasade pure sarva sa
Chakshudan dilo je janme jan Prabhu se
Chakshudan dilaje janme janme prabhu se
Divaidain de me prakashito
Divya gyani de prakashito
Prema bhakti jaha hote ati avinash jate
Prema bhakti jaha hote avidya vinasa jate
Vedika ishahara jarita
Vedegay janara charito
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Ajama Janara Bandhu
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
Lokera Jivana
Ay Janara Jivana
Ha ha Prabhu Koro Doyo Deha More Pada Chaya
Ah Prabhu Pura Doya Deha More Pada Jaya
Ebes Jais Yushu Tribhuvana
Meyas Visuchi Bhuvana
Prabhu Pata Pata Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhu Pada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya
Pada Jaya Prabhu Pada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanandini
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanandini
Namaste Saraswati Devi गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्यत्या विशत्यारिणे
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garajara Trivatsari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu
Nityananda Shri Advaita
Gadadhara Shivatsari Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Garajara Trivatsari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hari Bol Hari Bol Natai Gora Hari Bol
Jai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravrajagacha Astatara Satarashi Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sankunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Putali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Desatarine. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean